So we are live now in YouTube. So we're going to start right now. Welcome everybody to an exciting webinar today. We're going to talk about the Bonn Challenge and its impact and vision for the next 10 years. The Bonn Challenge started in 2011 by IUCN and the government of Germany. Is an exciting, very bold step to restore about 350 million hectares worldwide by 2030. We also have set a target for 150 million hectares restoring a degraded and deforested land by 2020. The 2nd September was, we did a global campaign to celebrate a 2020 milestone. So in Bangladesh as well, so we thought that we also do a small celebration of all the achievement we have done in Bangladesh, which is a forefront. Have been great achievement has been done in terms of coastal afforestation, forest landscape restoration. So these success stories the world need to know. So we have requested the Honorable Secretary, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to be our chief guest. We are very happy that he has given consent to be with us. We also have His Excellency Mr. Peter Farhanlos, so who is representing the federal government of Germany in Bangladesh as an ambassador. So he will speak with us about the partnership the Germany as we are having with the government of Germany. We also have Dr. T.P. Singh, who is a Deputy Regional Director of IUCN Asia. Mr. Chris Bass is the Director of IUCN Forest Conservation Program. We have Dr. Abu Nasser Mohsin Hussain. He is the Deputy Team Leader of Shufal Project. This is one of the biggest programs the Forest Department has ever taken in terms of forest restoration. So we'll hear about the Shufal program and the plan. We also have the Chief Conservator of Forest from Bangladesh Forest Department. And we have a few more discussants who will join during our open discussion session. I will ask Mahfuza Akhtar Mala to talk about the youth and gender perspective in conservation. She's working in Oxfam. Without further delay, may I invite Chris to tell us about this Bonn Challenge, what IUCN has been doing for the last 10 years, and what is the plan for future. Chris.
Thank you, thank you, Rakib, and thank you for and welcome to this to the honourable guests on the panel. It's a privilege to be presenting this. I'm just going to give 5 to 10 minutes introduction on the Bonn Challenge, so to put this into context of what is a global effort, but being implemented at local level. Actually, Rakib, you mentioned in your introduction yesterday that there was a global celebration of the 2020 milestone for the Bonn Challenge, as originally the target was a global effort to bring 150 million hectares of deforested and degraded land and under restoration by 2020. I say that because yesterday some part of the discussions were very much around the Bonn Challenge, and that the global initiative helps inspire action locally, and that's why panels like this and discussions like this at countries and where the implementation and where the action really happens is so important, to see that this doesn't say just as a global commitment, but actually is inspiring action and delivery on the ground. So Rakib, as you said, it's a global effort of 150 million, restoring 150 million hectares by 2020. But this was also extended by the New York Declaration in the 2014 UN Climate Summit to be 350 million hectares by 2030. But okay, so just move on to the next slide, please. So why is this important for us? forests provide more than 86 million green jobs and support livelihoods of many more. Degradation through human activities is impacting at least 3.2 billion people, and 90% of who live in extreme poverty depend on forests for their survival. As you can see in this slide, if we reach the 350 million hectares, it will generate an estimated 170 billion per year in net benefits. That includes watershed, coastal protection, disaster risk reduction, crop yields, land health, forest products, etc., and has the ability to sequester up to 1.7 gigatons of carbon dioxide. So not only helping countries reach their climate change goals, but also helping reach national development goals, reducing poverty reduction, and many multiple benefits. Which is what often as a key point, that this isn't just sitting within the forestry sector. It's a forest landscapes working across forest lands, agricultural lands, and bringing in and making sure we're restoring and using woody biomass to help us achieve those benefits. So the next slide, please. So what has the Bonn Challenge done so far? To date, we've got 210 million hectares committed by 61 countries, 8 states, and 5 associations. And actually, Bangladesh joined the Bonn Challenge in 2017 to restore 0.7, with a commitment to restore 0.75 million hectares. And we know from the subset of countries that we've just five pledge countries where we've been working and tracking the barometer, that we already have 45 million hectares under restoration, and the 350,000 plus short and long-term jobs have been created, with 1.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide sequestered. So as well as seeing these global commitments in the 74 countries and states, and 210 million hectares committed, we're already seeing progress, and we're all seeing rapid progress around the restoration, focus. So what is the forest landscape restoration approach? If we go to the next slide, it's critical to understand that underpinning the Bonn Challenge is the principles of forest landscape restoration. And as I alluded to earlier, it's working beyond just the pure forest. It's working across a landscape. It's managing for long-term resilience, and it's managing across large areas. What we have here is a key 7 principles that we're driving through. It's looking at the multiple benefits of restoration. So what are the multiple benefits? What are we trying to achieve? It's working with local stakeholders and adapting to local conditions. So what may be suitable for Rwanda may be different for Bangladesh. What may be suitable for Brazil would be different for India. So we really work and tailor our interventions to local conditions, involving all stakeholders, but government departments, local community groups, bringing in the gender component and making sure that women are at the table as critical decision makers, and making sure we're restoring forward, as we say in the title, restoring our future. So what do we need this land to provide us for? What's the functionality that we need this land for across the landscape? So the different land uses, the different trade-offs, the different land dynamics, looking into the future to maintain our natural ecosystems as part of the critical ecosystem structure that we need for multiple different land functionality, whether that be from flood protection, land productivity, land health, etc. These are critical elements of the forest landscape restoration approach. If we move on to the next slide, I think just to also categorize this in relation to a lot of discussions now where we're seeing countries commit to nature-based solutions in their nationally determined contributions to climate change, the NDCs, and nature-based solutions is 30 to 40% of the mitigation potential that we have globally, and is critical for countries to help meet not just their mitigation but their resilience targets. as they move forward and adapting and responding to climate change. And for example, in Bangladesh, is restoring forests and mangroves and the agricultural landscapes can help recapture ecosystem services. So we talk about the soil fertility, the flood protection, carbon sequestration, watershed regulation, and making sure that systems are resilient for society. So what are your national priorities? What are the national priorities of water and food security, rural development? How does it link to international climate change, biodiversity, and land degradation? So we really, it's really helping drive those, address the challenges that we have both nationally and global challenges, and making sure that we look forward and restore forward. So how are we actually? So one of the things that we've responded to very early on was, we've got the commitments. We know what countries are doing. We know that forest landscape restoration is helping countries achieve their biodiversity targets, their climate change targets, their SDG targets. But how are we tracking that, and how do we understand what the success, how do we understand where countries are with the success factors and results and benefits being generated from restoration? So the enabling environment and the delivery environment. So we've IUCN with partners and supported by the German government, who have been a fantastic lead driver behind the whole restoration movement, and obviously the Bonn Challenge. We've been developing the Bonn Challenge to understand what this means to us. So looking at the success factors, whether that be the policies and plans, and the strong institutions in place, the relevant financing, and the relevant financing across sectors. So this doesn't have to be a forest sector on its own, it's working across all other sectors. So how are the agricultural sector integrating forest landscape restoration into their agroforestry systems? How are they working on land health, land productivity issues? What is the technical planning, level of technical planning, both at national and local level, using the nature-based solutions principles and the FLR principles to ensure that these are integrated into technical planning across the multiple sectors, and then tracking, monitoring how we are achieving those results and benefits. And that could be, at the moment, we're looking at results and benefits under the size of area under restoration, the actual impact we're having in relation to climate, looking at the sequestration ability, the impacts on biodiversity, the nature positive response, and the jobs created. So we're working with building that up. We've worked in 5 pilot countries, and as I say, we've got a lot. We've got in those 5 pilot countries, they've got agricultural natural regeneration, and improvement of agricultural land through agroforestry. In the 5 pilot countries, that represents 87% of the restoration strategies that are being implemented. In actual fact, only 2% is under commercial plantation. So it shows the cross-sectoral multiple benefits of restoration, from improving agricultural land, reducing reducing flooding threats, etc. So in the barometer, we've as well as the 5 pilot countries that I mentioned, we've got that have had pledged 30 million hectares. You've got 27 million that is actually under restoration now. That's 89% of the pledge. We have another 13 countries who have reported on areas under restoration, with 43 million hectares under restoration. It's 29% of the Bonn Challenge target, and 56% of those countries, those 13 countries, of their commitment. So you can see that these are significant areas under implementation. And the predominant activities are silvicultural, natural regeneration, improvement of agricultural land through agroforestry, with finances estimated at over 10 billion being put in, mainly from a lot of sources from the public funding and the redirecting at national level of funding resources. I've also just put in one slide at the end here to also emphasize the role of gender equality in this, because we're working on an approach that goes beyond do no harm, by actively working to improve livelihoods, human livelihoods and well-being. And that's as key critical land managers, land decision makers. That's also addressing gender gaps, where FLR actions must help to reduce those gaps, and also to balance out biases and avoid exasperating and reinforcing gender inequalities, and proactively improve the situation of the whole communities through inclusive, equitable approaches. So going back to that landscape slide approach slide, which covers all the aspects of involving stakeholders and responding to local conditions. So obviously, as I said at the beginning of this, that's just a snapshot of the global effort. And it's great to be involved in this panel, and looking forward to hearing much more of the specific context of how things are working in Bangladesh. So Rakib and fellow panelists, thank you for the opportunity for presenting, and I look forward to hearing more as we proceed through the next hour.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for your very succinct presentation. It gives a global overview of how Bonn Challenge has been working and how countries have been benefiting. One thing that you mentioned about this nature-based solution, we recently launched a global standard, IUCN launched a global standard of nature-based solution, which we also want to apply in Bangladesh. And since the Regional Adaptation Center, Global Adaptation Center will be in Dhaka, this is an opportunity for us to liaise with the government and bring this global knowledge available to the government and other stakeholders. Honorable Secretary, before you speak, I'll give 2 minutes or 3 minutes floor to Dr. T.P. Singh. He will summarize like how this global effort has been unpacked in Asia and how we can learn from country to country, like from our neighboring country in South Asia, maybe Southeast Asia. What are the lessons learned and what we can apply, and how we can upscale what we are doing in Bangladesh. Dr. T.P. Singh, if you can speak about 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Rakib. And also from Asia Regional Office, I would like to welcome all the panelists and the participants. So I'll cut out all the introductory part of my speech, which was essentially to give you an indication of why it is so important for Asia to embrace restoration with increasing population and increasing growth and development, etc., etc. But coming to the Asia's role in terms of working on Bonn Challenge and forest restoration aspects, I'll begin by saying that out of the total pledge of 210 million, which Chris just mentioned, Asia is contributing 24 million, which I think needs to increase. And I think we need to work more closely with other Asian countries to see if they can pledge areas which need to be restored under this program. Now, Bangladesh, we already know, has pledged 0.775 million. India has pledged 21 million hectares, but the recent discussions with the Indian government is that they want to add another 5 million very soon, and they are already processing this through their governmental procedures. And hopefully they will also announce that this pledge has gone up to 26 million. And in any case, 21 million is the highest pledge of any country so far. And then, of course, we have Mongolia with 0.6 million. Pakistan, as a state, as a national, as a country, they pledged 0.1 million. But one of their state, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, has also pledged 0.6 million. And they are actually progressing very quickly in terms of achieving their targets. And then we have Sri Lanka, 0.2 million, and Asia Pulp and Paper in Indonesia, which is 1 million. Now, we've already discussed the role FLR plays. FLR, as you know, is not only forestry, it is not only silviculture, it is not only assisted natural regeneration, but it also includes animal husbandry, horticulture, agroforestry, and basically treating the whole landscape in a very methodological manner. in 2017, Asia organized the first Asian Ministerial Roundtable on FLR in Indonesia. And that was a starting point where a number of Asian countries were interested. They were briefed on what Bonn challenge is, and many country pledges came during that period. And in 2019, we organized an ASEAN technical workshop on FLR to essentially invite ASEAN countries to come into this Bonn challenge fold. Now, a few minutes or a few half a minute maybe on India's efforts. I say this because Government of India has actually funded IUCN India office to assist them with the application of ROW methodology and FLR principles in 5 or 6 states in which these they are going to work. And I think this is a very important step. A lot of work has already been done, but this is something which could probably be looked at by other countries in terms of transfer of capacity and so on. As Asia office, we are not only working in those countries which have pledged, but there are restoration efforts going on in other parts of Asia also, like China, Cambodia, Myanmar, and so on, Vietnam. And we also have JEF restoration initiative projects in Myanmar, China, and Pakistan. And as I was saying initially, it will be very useful if we can think of enhancing our funding sources through JEF and GCF. As you know, IUCN is an accredited agency to JEF and GCF. We are already implementing restoration programs through JEF in Myanmar, Pakistan, and China. And it will be a very, I think, appropriate to see how we can collaborate with government of Bangladesh on maybe working on a JEF or a GCF project. And also to add, IUCN has recently got 2 GCF projects approved, one for Nepal and one for Sri Lanka. And restoration aspects are very central to what we are going to do. So that is something which I would request Mr. Ziaul Hassan, Secretary Saab, to kindly consider. And finally, I'll say that there is a lot of opportunities for South-South cooperation between countries of the region to see how we can actually work together, not only in country, but also on transboundary programs. And finally, of course, I would like to commend Rakib and his team for organizing this workshop and this webinar, and for also stellar work that they are doing in Bangladesh. Thank you, Rakib.
Thank you, TP, for your very insightful thoughts. And now we'll move to Honorable Secretary. But before that, I must say that yesterday, when we are having this global media campaign on Bonn Challenge, one of the first video that was aired was from Bangladesh, and it was interviewed was our Secretary, Mr. Ziaul Hassan, which we will play at some point. But let's hear first from Honorable Secretary his thoughts on Bonn Challenge and Bangladesh experience. Honorable Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Rakib, country representative of Bangladesh, and distinguished panelists and other respected participants. This is my privilege to display before you our bid to restore our forested land. Ours is a densely populated country, so we have a scarcity of land, and instead of that, our government is very much aware and very much sensitive to protect our existing forest land and to expand it through adoption of different projects. Presently, we are having 2.6 million hectares of forested land, and through our participation in Bonn Challenge, we have pledged to extend our forested land by 0.75 million hectares. And we are earnestly trying to achieve our target. Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries due to climatic situation. And this is very much in our understanding that to combat adverse climatic situation, we need to go for huge plantation and restoration of forested land. And in our bid to uh, uh, enhance and strengthen adaptive measures, our government has adopted Bangladesh Climate Change and Adaptation Plan in 2009. And under this plan, we are every year, government of Bangladesh has allocating a handsome amount for different adaptation programs, including afforestation and recovery of our forested land. And in our continuous bid to for our continuous bid to preserve our ecosystem, our biodiversity, and our forested land, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been awarded Champion of the Earth Award in 2015. This year we are commemorating the anniversary of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and to commemorate the his birth anniversary, we are going to implant 1 crore saplings throughout the country. Our Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated the plantation on 16th of July this year, and until 31st of August, we have already achieved 57% 57% of 1 crore samplings, and the rest percentage will be achieved by 2nd week of September. Finally, from our forest department, every parliament, there are additional 5,000 sampling in their constituency. So, and in our bid to enhance and expand our forest, and under this program already we 7 lakh, almost 6.5 lakh people from the local community, they have been engaged in the program, and we have already distributed $34.8 million to the local community people engaged in the program. And in the program, a large percentage of the beneficiaries are from are women, and through their engagement in this program, they have been able to come out of poverty. And we are also encouraging plantation in homestays, and all these activities are contributing to restore forestry and our target of forest and tree coverage under Sustainable Development Goals. Where IUCN, I heartily appreciate the initiative of IUCN for launching mangrove for the forest initiative, and under this project, they have already planted huge area in a level, and we are also getting financial and technical support from World Bank, ADB, UNDP, FAO, and USAID to our capacity to assess our to conduct a survey on our area, helping us expand our the restore, degrade, and deforested land. So happy and very pleased to start
Unfortunately, I guess we have lost the secretary due to technical difficulty. He will probably come back. So, yeah, he's back now.
sorry, I was
Ji,
connected and I am what I was telling that with our limited resources and capabilities, we are very much committed to restore our degraded forest, and through adoption of new projects, we are proceeding to expand our forested area, and so we are also happy and pleased to be in the group of Bonn Challenge, and we are committed to achieve the target what we placed to our association in. I thank heartily IUCN being our trusted ally and helping us in encouraging us for afforestation and recovery of our forested land. And thank you for your patient hearing. Would say that we very much understand the necessity of maintaining our ecosystem, our biodiversity, to our most effort in preserving our forest, in expanding our forest. We believe that the prevailing condemning cessation, not like cessations, are defenses for not maintaining our valuable forest resources. So this is very much in our mindset and the right direction to conserve our forest and to restore our deforested land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary,
I would like to
for your. আপনি কিছু বলছিলেন
now I still work in connection of launching of our global center, global in Dhaka, Global Center on Innovation in Dhaka. Our Honorable Prime Minister going to launch the opening of the center 8th of September, and we are engaged to complete some essential preparatory works. And I have also some other agencies. So I seek apology to leave you here, if you permit.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary. Thank you for your time. I know how busy you are because there's a big event coming where the Honorable Prime Minister will be present along with the Ban Ki-moon to inaugurate the Global Adaptation Center in Dhaka, Regional Center in Dhaka. But we are very grateful for the time you spent and to hear your insights, your thoughts about Bonn Challenge and overall the nature-based solution and the sustainable development in Bangladesh that is happening. And we also would like to be partner from IUCN as both Dr. T.P. Singh and Chris Bass has mentioned, through our global effort, through our regional effort, and through our national effort, and the different financial mechanism that we are conducting. Thank you very much again for your time. May I now request Dr. Nasser to speak about this big project that Forest Department is doing, which has a big component of restoration. And Forest Department is also adopting the collaborative management principle. What is the plan and how you're incorporating and moving from social forestry to collaborative forest management? So some insights from you, Dr. Nasser.
Yeah, thank you, Rakib Bhai. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to all. Actually, to me, the first question is why Bonn Challenge? Is it only a 150 million hectares plantation by 2020 or 350 million hectares plantation target by 2030? I think no. Actually, the ultimate targets are the food security, rural development, and availability of water sources for the global community by 2030. I would like to thank to the citizen of the Federal Republic of Germany and IUCN to realize this underlying impact of the climate change, biodiversity, and land degradation in 2011. In Bangladesh, we are implementing the similar type of project called SUFAL, S-U-F-A-L. That means Sustainable Forest and Livelihood Project. It is 175 million US IDA and for the government of Bangladesh jointly program. It is 5 years program. This is, Mr. Rakibul has rightly said that this is totally a restoration program. And it has 4 components. First component is strengthening, institutional strengthening. And the 4th component is monitoring and evaluation. But the 2nd and 3rd component, it is strengthening collaborative forest and protected areas management. Will finance restoration and afforestation through collaborative forest management. And the 3rd component is increasing access to alternate income generation activities. So we can say that this is totally a restoration forest program of Bangladesh. Actually, during this project, SUFAL project, will plant more than 80,000 hectares. And the smallest unit of this project is villages. Will cover 600 villages, including 40,000 households. And the main question is, will create collaborative forest management. And before, we had social forestry concept. So what is the difference between social forestry and collaborative forest management? In social forestry, actually, we follow the social forestry rules in 2004. It is the smallest unit is only the plantation. Either is block plantation or it is a roadside plantation or embankment plantation. After the rotation, it may be 8 years or 10 years or 12 years, they will get the benefit of the revenue. So this is only their benefit. But in the collaborative forest management, it is the smallest unit of the village. That means in our beat, and it will combine a lot of 5 subcomponents in a village, like forest protection conservation subcommittee, village credit and savings subcommittee, village social audit subcommittee, and village finance and account subcommittee. Actually, the main of the village level institutions and make them stronger and improve the lifestyle of the forest dependent communities. So in the social forestry, they will get benefit only that from that plantation. But in the collaborative forest management perspective, they will get it will change entire lifestyle forest dependent communities by engaging themselves, so forest protection, conservation, and create alternative livelihoods. And for this reason, we can say it is a paradigm shift of forest development from the social forestry concept to collaborative forest management concept. And when we'll do this type of plantation program or restoration program, there are different types of modalities like assisted natural regeneration with enrichment and stand tree improvement, enrichment plantation, and mixed plantation with fast growing species, and mixed plantation with slow growing species, and in 4 landscape. What are the 4 landscapes? It's the hilly areas like Chittagong, Cox's Bazar, and Sylhet hilly areas, and inland shal forests like Tangail, Moymenching, Dhaka, and Dinajpur, and coastal areas like Patuakhali, Bhola, and Noakhali, and Chittagong coastal areas. And there is also another landscape we are saying tree outside forest. So among these 4 landscapes, we'll choose 600 villages, and among these 600 villages, we'll create the collaborative forest management committee. And these collaborative forest management committees, people, they will adjacent to the forest, and will plant this type of enrichment plantation and natural and also fast growing species and slow growing species, and also in the newly accredited coastal afforestation program. And this collaborative forest management will engage 7 NGOs of these areas. The 7 NGOs will see baseline survey and will get this benefit, and will totally dependent on forest, and they will be involved in the village collaborative forest management committees and these others 5 subcommittees for protection. They will protect the forest and they will get the benefits. And as for example, alternate livelihood, they will sit together and they will think what will be their alternate livelihood for that respective area, and then we'll give this project will give some financial support to the every household, and then this way the entire range or entire bit will be benefited. So this is the main difference between the social forestry perspective and the collaborative forest management perspective. And I think after 5 years, it will be totally paradigm shift from the social forestry concept to collaborative forest management concept. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. It was very good to understand the basic concept of Shufal project, which is, I understand, quite a complex, but it has been launched very successfully. We are proud to be a partner to Shufal project, as we would be implementing in providing technical support to Bangladesh National Herbarium and the Forest Department to come up with the red listing of threatened species in Bangladesh. So this is one of the core technical expertise that IUCN has and provides to all the government. And I mean, one of the elements you mentioned about this people's participation, and many times this people's participation, you know, there is a gender aspect and the youth engagement. We will hear that from Mala, but before I give floor to Mala, I would like to invite His Excellency Peter Farhanholz. I'm extremely sorry if I pronounce your name not correctly. We would like to hear, because he has to leave by 4 o'clock, so we'd like to take this opportunity to hear from you, the government of Germany's viewpoint on Bonn challenge, and especially how you were working with the government counterpart and other stakeholders in forest landscape restoration and environment, in particular, in general, the conservation sector or sustainable development sector in Bangladesh. Your Excellency, it's your time. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. Even though at short notice, it was for me very important to be part of this and to participate. Let me just say at the outset that Germany gives its full political support to the activities of IUCN and the implementation of the Bonn Challenge. It was in 2011 that the German government, together with IUCN, established the Bonn Challenge. And now, why in Germany? In Germany, I think we have a very particular concern and interest in ecological matters, which of course also exist in other countries. But in Germany, it has found expression in the political sphere. German society, German citizens have established the Green Party already decades ago. The Green Party by now is the second largest political force in Germany. And over the years, the green dimension has been added to the political discourse. Nowadays in Germany, almost nothing can be discussed or decided without taking consideration of green matters or green issues. Green being ecological, the whole range from climate change, biodiversity, and so on. This maybe explains why we are so much interested in IUCN and the work of IUCN reality. Main goals is to have 350 million hectares of land by 2030. 350 million hectares. You could calculate that that corresponds to 3.5 million square kilometers. This makes it more understandable for me. 3.5 million square kilometers, which is about roughly the surface of the whole of Germany, 10 times of the surface of the whole of Germany. It is a very ambitious goal, but I think we need to do everything. All the countries participating in this need to do their utmost to achieve these goals, and the countries that are not participating in this need to be persuaded to become a part of this. If we talk about reforestation and restoring degraded land, it has been mentioned by previous speakers. It's not only beneficial to the restoration of nature, but it has a positive impact on the development of the country. It has a positive impact on climate change. And that reminded me of a study Swiss Research Institute, which I believe it was last year in the summer, published the results that a massive reforestation on a global scale would have a tremendous impact in mitigating climate change. So in this respect, I think we are all called upon to do in the media that Bangladesh is reconsidering its energy policy, is reconsidering how the energy mix should be changed. And I think thoughts are ongoing to move away from coal towards more climate-friendly energies, which of course we would welcome very much. Bangladesh has now the chair of the group of the especially climate affected countries, and I think this would be a very important signal at this point of time. I wonder sometimes why countries which are developing would repeat the same mistakes that we did. The mistakes that we did in Germany while we industrialized, we destroyed, damaged heavily our nature and environment, and we had to expend tremendous cost to recover from this and to restore our forests and our rivers and nature. The wheel does not have to be reinvented. My advice would be for governments of developing countries like Bangladesh to look at best practices, at previous experiences, and try to avoid the mistakes that we committed. I understand, of course, that there is a strong need to have fast and strong material growth. But in the end, development is not only about the rise of incomes and economic growth, but it is more holistic. It is about nature, environment, climate, about the well-being of the citizens, which is not only measured nowadays by the money they earn per month. Lastly, I want to encourage IUCN to continue their valuable work here in Bangladesh. I think you have a special responsibility to help the government, to assist the government, and to help the citizens of this country to move forward in a sustainable way. I want to encourage the government of Bangladesh, and I want to encourage especially the stakeholders and the decision makers in these areas to remain on course and to do whatever is necessary to implement the Bonn Challenge and to protect the environment in this beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. You mentioned about a very I would say, very insightful thought that we don't need to repeat the same mistake that the Western country or developed country has done. And also, you mentioned about citizens' responsibility or citizen involvement in the conservation. With that, I will now request Mahfuza Akhtar Mala. She will speak about, the role of youth and gender in conservation sector from her perspective, from her personal experience. In many cases, this very important aspect is sometimes overlooked, and how we can reinvigorate or reinstate this very important aspect in all the on sphere of life, including conservation. Mala, will you tell your story?
Thank you, Rakhi Bhai. Thank you all our discussant panel. It is really a great honor for me to be here in the discussion, and I really personally very enriched by this discussion. And I would say that like today I will be like more emphasize the role of younger women in the our restoration process. So much appreciation to IUCN for taking this initiative. We know that the pressure on our forest is huge due to like providing income, food, water, shelter, and also deliver solution to climate risks and land use needs. So considering all those aspects, Much congratulations to IUCN for taking this initiative, which is very much contemporary and very much timely initiative, I would say. But and I also emphasize the women's participation in the overall forest governance process. We know that women are very close to nature because of their gender role, or because of their care caregiver role. They are very much close to nature, and they also nurture nature because they are responsible for providing food to their family, or collecting others livelihood uh, uh, elements for their family as well. But what do we observe, that their participation in the decision making is also lagging behind. We know that any kind of environmental degradation or any kind of climate induced disaster has greatest impact on women, which is 14 times more than any man compared to the man. But their participation in the governing process, particularly forest governing process, is very low. So in this discussion, I would like to bring your all of your attention to ensure that women's participation is there. And like we know that women has their frontline knowledge to natural resource management. They are the frontline actor for any kind of disaster response, but there is a lack of recognitions for their leadership, their role. And also there is also need to build their capacity on some technical issues, so that they can be more involved in the process for natural resource management or forest governance system, so that we can the dream we have to restore the ecological functionality. This is we can ensure by ensuring women's participation and the young people participation. In Bangladesh, there are many evidence we have where we found that in the Chorland area, there are initiative taken by the community people. How they make the Chorland area is a greener land by their collective action in the community level. So this kind of community-led action is needed. The indigenous knowledge we have at the rural level, it is also important to recognize, and how we can involve our women and our young participant in the process to achieve more for our forest restoration process. I would say that we need to more emphasize in this aspect as well for our human well-being, or for our secure livelihood in future. Thank you, Rakib Bhai.
Thank you, Mala. For just for information, IUCN did a study with USAID very recently. The report is available. I would encourage everybody to download. Is gender-based violence and environment. Is a reinforcing interplay with a degraded ecosystem. The more there is more violence towards the woman, and the vice versa. So you can improve the situation with the improvement of the ecosystem. So this is very important for a country like us. And we would like to finish the webinar within an hour. So we have only 1 minute. And I promised to Chief Conservator of Forests, I'll leave him by 4 o'clock, where it looks like we're running a little bit of overtime. But Chief Conservator, if you give me just 2 minutes, I will try to invite two persons. Is very Dr. Farid, who has been doing at the end of afforestation in the field. Farid Bhai, if you can tell us just 1 minute your take from this Bonn challenge, and I will also ask Mukul, Dr. Mukul. He's a young scientist doing a lot of publications recently, and his perspective from the science. Importance of capturing, encouraging young generations to go into the deep science like you. Farid Bhai, if you just give 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear from Chris from Dr. T.P. Singh, seeing him after a long time, and others, especially German Honorable Ambassador Germany, and also our Honorable Secretary. So in nutshell, I would say, I just reiterate what Dr. Nasir was telling. Bangladesh is really doing well in terms of restoration because for two reasons. One is people are very much interested in planting trees. So to achieve Bonn challenge, it's very important that people's participation is there. And normally in Bangladesh for the last decade or more than a decade, people have been planting trees in their homestead. So that's one thing. And the other thing is Bangladesh Forest Department is doing an excellent job. I would say that they are trying to integrate people in forest conservation. And based on the experience of climate resilient participatory afforestation and deforestation project, where Aranya Foundation was one of the partners of Forest Department, our main responsibility was to support livelihood of forest dependent communities. And we have found that if we can support livelihood of forest dependent people, that contributes significantly in forest conservation. So we are absolutely in right track, and based on the experience of climate resilient participatory afforestation and deforestation project, this sustainable forest and livelihood project is established, is developed. So I would say Bangladesh is absolutely in right track, and I would also like to acknowledge support of USAID, which was supporting Bangladesh Forest Department specifically or especially in establishing co-management system. So we are in right track, and Bangladesh is doing a good job. Especially, I would say, just with Ms. Mala, I just like to say one thing, and then I will end up my presentation saying that when we try to work with forest-dependent people, and if we try to select people who would be contributing in forest conservation, we have found that in our experience, 84% women household came forward to contribute in forest conservation. This is really a paradigm shift in Bangladesh, that women are doing excellent and they are taking serious interest in contributing towards reducing pressure on forest, at the same time creating resources in the homestead. Thank you very much, Rakib.
Thank you, Farid Bhai. Thank you, Farid Bhai. In fact, there's an afforestation program has become a social movement in Bangladesh. Anywhere you go, a small corner in Bangladesh, you will see somebody selling some saplings, and the credit goes to Forest Department and the NGOs who work with Forest Department. And I'm sure the CCF, the Chief Conservator of Forest, will talk about it. Now, just 1 minute, Dr. Mukul, what we need to do to bring more youngs into the research like you are doing.
Thanks, Rakib bhai. Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think first I would like to thank actually for organizing this seminar. I think this is a very hot topic and very relevant for from Bangladesh perspective. And I think young are already quite active in research in Bangladesh. Just we need to promote them. So as for example, Nasir bhai now he discussed about the Shufol project. I think Shufol and IUCN, if you recruit more people, young people, and promote them in this kind of research and development work, which involves restoration, I think that is how you are actually playing some role in actually engaging young or empowering young in research. And another thing is actually, I think Forest Department is the legal custodian in our country, and the local people, they are the real custodian. They are actually managing the forest. They actually decide what is happening. So I think one thing we need to do, we already learned many things from our social forestry projects, from our protected area co-management projects. And this is our time actually to implement all these lessons under this FLR or this kind of activity. So this is actually time for us, a high time for us to implement all the lessons we have and to promote young, both in the so that they can do research and they can also do some development work that can benefit local people and also our forest cover.
Okay, thank you. Back to Dr. Mukul. Just to mention, in IUCN Bangladesh, 70% staff are below 35. So we are in a young organization, and we try
Yeah, I know that.
to more opportunity for young to participate in our work. With that, I will invite our Chief Conservator of Forest to say a few of the outstanding achievement that Forest Department and Bangladesh government have done in terms of forest restoration. It's very unfortunate that we don't talk much about it, or we are shy to talk about it. We couldn't portray this success in the global arena. So this is one of the opportunity, because this program is live over globally. And I will encourage everybody to visit our IUCN YouTube page and IUCN Forest Twitter page, where you will find all of these country programs and the global program which we have done yesterday and today and maybe next few days. Is all are available. There's a big resources. Chief Conservator Forest, we'd like to hear your proud stories from Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Rakibul Amin. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Peter Verhulst, Federal Republic of Germany. Important discussions, Mr. Chris Bass, Director, Forest Conservation Program, and Mr. Dr. T.P. Singh, Deputy Regional Director of IUCN Asia, and Dr. Abu Nasser Mohsin Hossain, Deputy Project Director, Shufal Project Bangladesh, and also other discussions, Ms. Mala Fariduddin Ahmed from Aranok Foundation, and Dr. Sharif Hassan Mukul, and the moderator, IUCN Country Representative Bangladesh, Mr. Rakibul Amin, and other participants who joined in this webinar. Very good afternoon to all. It's a great privilege for me to be here for learning the experience of others and sharing some words regarding Bangladesh initiatives, Bangladesh achievements, and commitment to restore the forest land in our country. Actually, Bangladesh Forest Department is a century-old department. We started our forest conservation and forest custodian from 1862, almost 150 years ago. We started our journey. Already you have heard that in Bangladesh, 2.3 million hectare forest land we have, which is the 15.58% of total land area of our country. And Bangladesh Forest Department is the official and legal custodian of the forest area in Bangladesh. And at present, we have the forest cover of 12.8%, and we have the tree cover 22.37%. But in SDG target, we have targeted to achieve the 16% forest cover by 2030 and 25% tree cover by 2030, which is stated also the SDG target. And to achieve the target, definitely we have taken many initiatives to afforest and to reforest, to restore the forest land in Bangladesh. But definitely know that to achieve this SDG target and other biodiversity target in Bangladesh, definitely a lot of challenges. I think the major challenges in our country is the density of population in our country. You know, Bangladesh is the most densely populated country in the world. 1,200 people living per square kilometer, which is sometimes unimaginary in other countries. If we protect and we restore this type of natural resources, mainly forest resources, which is open type resources, we say. But when we started our forest protection 150 years back, that time our objective of forest management, basically the production forestry, to meet up the timber demand, to meet up the industrial raw materials. But when we saw that in a densely populated country without participation of the local people, it was not possible to conserve, to protect the forest, to protect the biodiversity, to protect the ecosystem like in Bangladesh. For that reason, in the last century, in the 80s decades, almost 50 years back from this time, in the early 80s of last century, we started the social forestry activities. And Dr. Nasser already mentioned some activities and some objectives and some procedure of the social forestry activities. Basically, when we started the social forestry in early 80s of last century, that first 10 years, I would say that was the experimental time to adopt the social forestry procedure in Bangladesh. So 10 years we learn from the people, we learn from the trial and error basis. And early 90s of last century, actually we started a big project around the, across the country to improve the tree coverage outside the forest area. And from that time, actually, we come to the outside the forest area, and we started to work with the people. And from that point of view, which we learned from that project and which we learned from the social forestry activities, that the people, community, they are the main factor, they are the main player to conserve any natural resources like forest resources in the densely populated country like Bangladesh. And from the experience we gained from the social forestry activities in the 90s of last century, we started the co-management involving the local people in our legal forest area, that means the reserved forest area. And we started to declare the protected area under the legal framework. And so far we have declared 48 protected area in Bangladesh, which covers around 23% of total forest area in our country. And already we established 28 protected area co-management committee to work with the forest people for conservation of the forest, for conservation of the wildlife, and for conservation of the biodiversity in the reserved forest area. I think that's a great success for Bangladesh part. And to legalize all the co-management activities, government formulated the protected area co-management rules in 2017. After almost 14 years experience, we started our co-management activities in 2003. And after 14 years of trial and error basis, government formulated and passed the co-management rules in 2017. And now we are managing our forest area, protected area under these co-management rules, that means the protected area rules. This is a success of the forest department for managing the natural forest with the active participation of local people. And definitely in this process, our Arannok Foundation was the partner in managing some areas of protected area. And for restoration and expansion of our forest area, you know, Bangladesh started our coastal afforestation in the 60s decades of last century. And definitely I would say that Bangladesh is the pioneer of coastal afforestation in the world. And so far I know Bangladesh has planted a big chunk of newly accreted area across the all over the coast in Bangladesh, and 200,000 hectare coastal afforestation mangrove plantation have raised by the Bangladesh Forest Department, and we have created a long shelter belt to protect our community, to protect our country, and to protect our village and district from the natural calamities, and to protect from the adverse impact of climate change, we have created a long coastal belt in our country, which we started from almost 70 years back, and still we are continuing the coastal plantation in our coastal belt, which is associated with, almost associated with the natural mangrove forest, the Sundarbans World Heritage Site. Recently, we completed some projects with the financial help. Already our Honorable Secretary mentioned a little bit with the help of the World Bank, with the help of the Asian Development Bank and USAID. We completed the Climate Resilience Participatory Afforestation Reforestation Project, which is the CRPRP project in some portions of the Bangladesh, and successfully completed. We successfully completed the project in forested area and outside the forest. Already, Mr. Fariduddin Ahmed said that in that project we involved the community people to support the livelihood, so that the pressure on the forest resources lessened by supporting the livelihood. And Ms. Mala already said that the women of our country, they are dependent on the forest resources, basically for cooking, and they collected and they collect the fuel from the forest for their daily purposes. So it's a big area to involve the women for the conservation of the forest resources and for restoration of the forest area in our country. And that we have already prepared the second forestry master plan. We first completed the first forestry master plan in 1994. That was the 20 years master plan. And after completion of the first master plan, we have formulated our second master plan, and where we also targeted the 20% forest area by the 2036. And by the government perspective plan, by the government set the 20% target of forest cover by 2041. And in the meantime, Bangladesh already joined the Bonn Challenge in 2017, and Bangladesh committed to reforest 0.75 million hectares, and it's definitely a big challenge for the Bangladesh, which is a land hunger country. Land is very scarce in our country because huge population pressure. They depend on the forest resources for their shelter, for their daily livelihood. So it's a big challenge for Bangladesh to achieve this target by 2030. But definitely, I would say the forest department in this time are ready to take this challenge to achieve this target, which we committed in 2017, 0.75 million hectare restoration program in Bangladesh, forest land. And definitely, the IUCN Bangladesh is a long trusted partner for conservation of wildlife, for restoration of our forest land, and for the technical assistance we are taking from the IUCN Bangladesh. And the IMF already planted some chunk of mangrove forest area vicinity to the Sundarbans, and this is a very successful program. And Dr. Nasser already said that what we are doing by our ongoing Shufal project for restoration and for the wildlife conservation, and IUCN is also a partner of Shufal project for the red listing of floral species and for the identification of alien species in Bangladesh. Hopefully, we will complete all the activities by Shufal project in due time. time. And after completion of the Shufal project, we have also planned to adopt some big project to achieve the targets which we committed in 2017 in Bonn Challenge initiatives. Definitely, I hope and I expect the cooperation from IUCN, from the German agency and other NGOs and partners who are working to greening the Bangladesh, who are working to achieve the target of SDG, like forest cover achievement and tree cover achievement. And definitely, I would like to say Bangladesh Forest Department is definitely ready to take up the Bonn challenge, and is proud to be part of such global initiative. And we are definitely confident that by 2030 we will achieve this target. And finally, I would like to thank IUCN Bangladesh, Mr. Rakibul Amin, and Mr. Chris, Mr. Tipi Singh, and His Excellency, our ambassador, German ambassador in Bangladesh, and definitely our Honorable Secretary, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Though he left the program for his busy schedule, thank you all. Thank you for arranging such webinar and for inviting me to say something in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, respected Chief Conservator of Forest, for your very inspiring summary and encouraging summary what the Bangladesh has achieved, and your renewed commitment to achieve the Bonn Challenge target that Bangladesh had put forward, and make a pledge to the global community, and your leadership in the Forest Department. I'm very sure that we will be having a lot of achievements in the coming future. Perhaps maybe at some point later, Dr. TP and Chris, myself, and we can have another session with you, one-to-one session, to discuss how IUCN can help in achieving the Bonn Challenge, and also in terms of restoration. You mentioned about MFF, Mangrove for the Future, as one of our flagship program in Asia. Similar kind of program, how we can design and implement together. TP mentioned about GCF and GEF, where IUCN is a accredited agency, so we can explore those avenues as well. We are 23 minutes more than what we expected. These webinars are, but it is also an indication that how interactive and engrossing this webinar was. So thank you very much for everybody, your time. And before we finish, we'll encourage you once again to visit our IUCN YouTube page and IUCN Forest Twitter page to see the Secretary's interview, Honorable Secretary's interview that he was aired at 9 a.m. yesterday. And also you will find a lot of interviews and webinars and live, a lot of interesting, I would say very resourceful documentaries in there. With that, thank you very much, Chief Conservator of Forest. Thank you, Dr. Nasser. Thank you, Farid Bhai. Thank you, Mala, Dr. Sharif, Dr. TP, and Chris Bass. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you again.
See you
Mr.
again.
Seth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah.